back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final.
Keep yourself in the loop of everything football on the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast. The latest news on and off the field, be it college football, Big Ten, SEC, Big 12, Pac-12, ACC to the NFL. We've got you covered. Listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Football Podcast.
And welcome everybody to another edition of the GSMC Football Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. As always, I'm your host, Kenneth Grunfelder, and it's great to have you guys here on this Monday, October 21st. We have a lot to cover on the show today. Before I get into that, just want to remind you guys, as always, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the Super Chat button in the chat, click on that, and you will create any thought or comment that you may have that you want to see displayed on the live broadcast. I will acknowledge it. It just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker, gsmcpodcast.net. That is gsmcpodcast.net. So, let's get into what we are going to discuss for today. So we're going to start off the show. We're going to recap the Super Bowl rematch between the Chiefs and the 49ers. The Chiefs winning 28-18. We'll get into that in just a second. Then in the second part of the show, we will talk about Deshaun Watson. It's likely that he tore his Achilles, and if that's the case, he is going to miss the rest of the season. So we will get into that. We'll talk about the Browns-Bengals game as well. But, looks like another season-ending injury for Deshaun Watson. Then, in the third part of the show, we will get into talking about one of the best games from yesterday, Lions-Vikings. Lions winning on a late field goal by Jake Bates and moving into first place in the NFC North, so we'll get into that. And then we'll also talk about the other game that ended on a late field goal, Packers-Texans. We'll get into that. And then in the final part of the show, we will preview the Monday night games, Ravens-Buccaneers and Cardinals-Chargers, which will be on ESPN Plus, an ESPN Plus exclusive. So if you don't have ESPN Plus, find a friend, find a family member, find a random person off the street, and say, hey, you got ESPN Plus? I need it tonight. Well, then again, Ravens-Buccaneers, I think, is the better game, but like I said, it's an ESPN Plus exclusive. So, and it'll be on at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. So, but let's get into the first topic. Let's talk about this Super Bowl rematch from yesterday, shall we? So, both teams dealing with injuries. The Chiefs were down some receivers, of course. Rashee Rice out for the year. And Juju Smith-Schuster also was injured, and he had a big game before the bye week against the Saints. So, the Chiefs kind of had to piece it together. And for the 49ers, I mean, it's just injuries continue to plague them. Obviously, they have no McCaffrey, but there was no Juwan Jennings in this game yesterday. Deebo Samuel was dealing with a bit of an illness, and he only played 3 snaps. So he was a non-factor in this game. He went to the locker room and, he was on the sidelines the rest of the game in regular clothes. So, that hurt the Niners. And then Brandon Ayuk, late in the game, it looked like, I thought initially he just got the wind knocked out of him, but got his knee banged up, and it appears to be significant. Looks like it's going to be an ACL, and it looks like he's going to be out for the rest of the year. So the 49ers were down their top 3 wide receivers in this game. And the one positive I will say is Ricky Pearsall simply being back out there, made some plays, recovering, of course, from the gunshot wound. And that's why he missed, this portion of the season up until this point. So it was great to see him out there, but this was a mess of a game for the 49ers. The defense did the best it could to keep them in it. Patrick Mahomes didn't throw for a ton of yards in this game. He did have one play late for 34 yards where, it looked like it was going to be a minimal game, but he was able to, maneuver his way through down the sideline. And like I say, picked up a 34-yard gain on that play. But yeah, the Niners, this was a rough game for them. This was a rough game for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy did not play well in this game. Had 3 interceptions on the day, which is not Brock Purdy-like. He usually does a good job at taking care of the football. Not here. And there were times during the game where you thought the 49ers were going to get it going, but they get down in the red zone late. Purdy throws a pick. It just was not great. Mahomes, he had a couple of interceptions in this game himself. Only passed for 154 yards in the game. And the Chiefs as a team, they ran the ball for almost 200 yards on this Niners defense. And I said that. The Niners have had a problem at stopping the run. Kareem Hunt had a good game, 22 carries for 78 yards and 2 touchdowns. Mahomes had a rushing touchdown. That was on 4th and goal. Mecole Hardman also had a rushing touchdown as well. The leading receiver in this game for the Chiefs was Noah Gray. 4 receptions for 66 yards. Samaje Perine had 1 reception for 22 yards. Xavier Worthy had 3 for 19. He was targeted 8 times. He got banged up in this game too, but he was able to come back in. I think he was being evaluated for a knee injury. Mahomes did miss him, though, on a deep pass. Worthy was open, and Mahomes just overthrew him. And that would have been big for me in fantasy. But, he missed him there. But the Chiefs' defense, only 1 sack in this game. Purdy did a good job at, avoiding the pressure in this game. Getting out of the pocket. He ran a little bit in this game. 27 rushing yards. He actually had 2 rushing touchdowns in this game. They were both QB sneaks. It was funny. The Niners radio broadcaster said the Purdy plunge. Yeah, so 2 rushing touchdowns for Purdy. If you have him in fantasy, that at least kind of saved his day. He still finished with like 17 fantasy points, but again, was not great. 17 of 31, 212 yards, no touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Not good. Niners defense, 2 sacks on the day. It just was not a good day for them. George Kittle was the leading receiver, 6 receptions for 92 yards. And to kind of go through the drive summary, so Niners punted to start the game. Chiefs turned it over on downs. And that was big for the Niners. And then immediately Brock Purdy throws a pick. Then Mahomes throws a pick. Then they both punt. Niners actually do go up 3-0 using another kicker, Carlson, the Carlson that used to play for the Packers. 55-yard field goal he kicks. And obviously we'll get into the Packers-Texans game later on. But then the Chiefs answer. They go 7 plays, 70 yards down the field. Some chunk plays, 20 yards to Noah Gray. Mecole Hardman, 20-yard run. They get down to the 49ers' 1-yard line. Kareem Hunt from 1 yard out scores to make it 7-3. Niners punt in the second quarter. Chiefs, another touchdown drive. Kareem Hunt from 6 yards out. More punts. And it was 14-6 at the half. Mahomes then opens up the second half with a pick, trying to hit Worthy. Gets intercepted by Lenore. Niners turn that into a touchdown. Brock Purdy a rushing touchdown. Carlson then misses the extra point. Thought the Niners would have maybe gone for 2 in that spot, but they didn't. Then the Chiefs punted. They went 3 and out very quickly. And then Purdy throws a pick on 3rd and 6, trying to hit Ronnie Bell. There was a miscommunication there on that play. And then the Chiefs turned that into a touchdown. It was a 33-yard run, it says here. I thought it was for 34 yards, but whatever, by Mahomes. That sets him up. And then Mahomes on 4th and goal scores from 1 yard out to make it 21-12. Purdy then throws another pick. Chiefs turn that into a touchdown. McCole Hardman, 18-yard touchdown run. And, and then the Niners, they ended up scoring a touchdown. Purdy, rushing touchdown. They go for 2. They don't get it. They try to go for the onside kick. They don't get that. And the Chiefs end up winning the game, improved to 6-0. Niners dropped to 3-4. So if you remember from last week, I was saying, are the Niners back after that win against the Seahawks? And, the offense looked better. But, in this game, you have a ton of injuries. Your quarterback turns the ball over. The defense, they held Mahomes down in terms of, throwing the football, but running the football, like I said, the Chiefs almost had 200 yards on the ground. It's not good. They're missing guys on defense. They're missing Ufanga. They're missing Dre Greenlaw. They went over it on the broadcast. And now, you're down your top 3 wide receivers. One of them probably out for the year. You're going to get Deebo Samuel back, and you're going to get Juwan Jennings back. And you're still waiting on Christian McCaffrey. Jordan Mason, had a couple of big runs, but the Chiefs really kept him in check for the most part. Niners right now are not playing like a good football team. And I still think this team will make the playoffs. I think they're going to get guys back. Once you get McCaffrey back, you get some of these guys on defense back. I think you'll be able to make the playoffs. And this division by no means is out of reach. The Seahawks did win yesterday. They destroyed the Falcons, outplayed them. So they're back in first place. But I think that's still the Niners division. I think they're still going to win it. But it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. And now the Rams, they won yesterday, so now they're only a half a game behind you. The Rams are 2-4, Niners are 3-4. So, the Niners, they gotta figure some stuff out. But, you look at the quarterback matchup. Look, Mahomes was down some receivers. It didn't matter. For Brock Purdy, it really impacted his game. And like I said, he does a good job at not turning the ball over. Yesterday he did. It was against a good defense. And we saw, and I was thinking back to the game against the Ravens on Christmas last year. Brock Purdy had, I think, 3 interceptions in that game. So it's just, the 49ers, there are very, when they're right, there are very few teams that they lose to. Because that's how good they are. They're one of the top teams in the NFL. But when they go up against the Chiefs, the Chiefs are, that's why the Chiefs are in a class of their own. They just find ways to win. And, it wasn't, offensively, they weren't great throwing the football, but running it, they were effective, and they play really good defense. So, they still are undefeated. And we'll see if a team does knock them off. Who is their first loss going to be to? I still don't think they're going to go undefeated, but it's possible they do. And they get back to the Super Bowl. We'll see. But we got a long way to go. But the 49ers have a lot of problems. And next week they take on the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. And I think the 49ers should win that game, but it's not a gimme this time. It's going to be tough. Because they don't look like the same team that they were last year. That's for sure. For many different reasons. So, yeah, the Chiefs, they are now 6-0 on the year. Niners dropped to 3-4. Let me know what you guys think about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So we are going to take our first break of the show. When we come back, we will talk about Deshaun Watson and him likely being out for the season. And we'll talk about the game itself between the Browns and the Bengals. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
I wanna be the greatest. Everybody on the fake shit. I look around and feel like everybody is the fakest. I make this every day and I'm impatient, hoping one day I blow up from the basement. Statement, the top is so vacant. I don't hear shit that I think is amazing. Waiting for my day when I'm playing sold out shows for 1,000 faces. my way and to be put down. It ain't your place, all this my town. If I want that shit, then I'll get it right now. I'm losing it, the noose it fits, I'm losing shit, a stupid myth. You choose to live or choose to dip, you choose to fight or lose your grip and lose a gift. Oh.
I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind?
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about Deshaun Watson, his injury, and what's going to happen with the Browns going forward. So they played the Bengals yesterday. Bengals picked up a much-needed victory. So now they get themselves, back in the conversation. They're now 3-4 on the season. But, the Browns, their season is looking like it's pretty much over. Deshaun Watson has not played well this year. And, people were talking about, including myself, why is Jameis Winston, not in? They need to make a quarterback change. And, Kevin Stefanski constantly saying, we're sticking with Deshaun. He's going to be the guy. And, a lot of people are talking about, well, is that coming from the owner? Because you put this huge investment on Deshaun Watson, and you bench him, you're essentially saying, yeah, this contract is a disaster, and, we are waving the white flag. So really, it's like, well, then I guess the only way that Deshaun Watson is not going to play is if he gets hurt. And he ended up getting hurt. Non-contact injury, likely an Achilles, and that means, he got carted off the field. That means he's out for the year. He's out for the year. And, Browns fans seem to be pleased by that. And you had guys like Myles Garrett. I saw what Jameis Winston had to say as well after the game, coming to his defense. And I'm not going to, sit here and talk about, what has gone on about Deshaun Watson over the years, because it's out there. We're not going to get into it. But, it's a rough situation all around. And for me, the Browns, they thought when they acquired Deshaun Watson, they thought that they were going to be getting the quarterback that we saw in Houston that played really well, was one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL for those years. And it's just so much stuff has gone on, and, they gave him this big contract, and he just has not lived up to it, and he's never going to live up to it. I don't know what the Browns are going to do, because, again, you got this contract on your hands, and he's likely out for the year again for the second year in a row. Now, he played a few more games, but it really doesn't matter. They're 1-6. They are 1-6. And they're going nowhere. They are going nowhere this year. I had them winning 10 games because I thought with this team, and you get Nick Chubb back, they'd be good enough to, finish with the winning record. And I thought Deshaun Watson, would be inconsistent at times. I thought he would put together some good games, and then there'd be some bad games. Well, he never had a game where he threw for over 200 yards. It just never happened. And then, you have Amari Cooper being traded, and that kind of signaled that, yeah, maybe, we're kind of giving up on the season. He went 15-17 for 128 yards yesterday. Then DTR comes in. He goes 11-24, 82 yards, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Then he hurts his finger, and Jameis Winston, who actually got demoted to the third string, but actually he was the emergency quarterback. So he had to come in, and he threw a touchdown. He threw a touchdown to David Njoku. Final score ended up being 21-14 Bengals. And it's like, well, who's going to be the starter now? Is it going to be Jameis? Is it going to be DTR? I will be at Browns-Ravens next week. So I hope it's Jameis, but we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, this Browns season has just been a disaster. And, you know, this kind of put a damper on Nick Chubb's return, because Nick Chubb, you know, after his long road back, he scores a touchdown. Didn't have a big game, but he did score the touchdown, which was awesome to see. You know, and hopefully, you know, from here on out, you know, he gets better and better, and at least could give Browns fans something to be excited about. You know, just having Nick Chubb back on the field is great, but you lose Deshaun Watson, and you know, who knows? I mean, we'll see how the offense looks, you know, with either DTR or Jameis. The Browns are still dealing with injuries, and this looks like the team that's going to finish in last place. The Steelers, I mean, they won last night. We'll get into that game tomorrow, the Jets-Steelers, because there's a lot to talk about with that. I'm sure I'm going to hear about it in my production meeting, you know, being the Jets, you know, the Jets spokesperson, being optimistic about the Jets. But that's for tomorrow. With the Browns here, yeah, I mean, they're the last place team right now. Bengals, you know, put together 2 wins in a row. You know, they're getting themselves back in the conversation. You got the Steelers and the Ravens at the top of the division. Ravens play tonight. I mean, the Browns season's basically over. It is, unless, you know, whoever plays quarterback, they just went out. But yeah, this is just for the Browns. This has been a disaster. I mean, there's no other way to put it. You know, and they were better off keeping Baker Mayfield. I'm sorry, they just were. Kevin Stefanski didn't believe in him, I guess. They went in a different direction, and I mean, it's just last year it's the shoulder, now it's the Achilles. I mean, where do you go from here? Do you just eat the money? I mean, that's what the Broncos did. You know, I mean, you're likely going to be a team that's, you know, picking in the top 10. If you keep losing games, you know, I could still see the Browns. Like, I feel like the Browns still have a roster that's good enough to win some games. You know, I mean, whoever plays quarterback, if it's DTR, if it's Jameis, I mean, I don't see them finishing with 1 win on the season. I don't see that happening. But, I mean, what do you do? What do you do if you're the Browns? I really don't know. Because Deshaun Watson, even before the injury, was not playing well. But you have this huge investment in him. Like I said, the Broncos moved off of Russ. Browns could definitely do the same thing with Deshaun Watson if they wanted to. It's just you're going to have to eat the money. So, it's a very tough situation. Obviously, you don't want to see guys get hurt. I mean, injuries just continue to plague this season. I mean, I know I kept saying it before the year started. Let's hope for not as many injuries as last year, but it doesn't matter. It's injuries are inevitable. But yeah, it's just for the Browns. Quarterback continues to be a problem, and I really don't know where they go from here, honestly. Like I said, it's either going to be Jameis, it's going to be DTR. Go outside the organization, bring somebody else in. But yeah, their season is pretty much over. That's a team that I just don't see them getting back on their feet and making a run. And this is why fans wanted Joe Flacco to stay. I mean, Joe Flacco came in late in the year last year, and he propelled them to the playoffs. The Browns won 11 games last year. Just think about that. They won 11 games last year with 5 different starting quarterbacks. Again, Jeff Driscoll, he started the last game of the season, but still, 5 different starting quarterbacks. This team right here won 11 games last year with no Nick Chubb either. And now they're 1-6. They are 1-6 on the season. Their only win is against the Jaguars, who got a win yesterday against the Patriots. Not a good football team. And we'll see how the rest of the season plays out. Are changes on the way? Because you got to remember, Kevin Stefanski, right, won Coach of the Year. Coach of the Year he won last year. And now, I mean, this team might win what? 4 games? 5 games? Let's look at their remaining schedule. Let's see. But again, we don't know who the starting quarterback's going to be going forward. If it's Jameis, if it's DTR. So they got the Ravens next week. That should be a loss. Home against the Chargers. Look, the Chargers are not a bad football team. They play good defense. They run the football well, although I hope they don't run the football well tonight because I'm going against J.K. Dobbins. I hope he does nothing tonight, but that's besides the point. Those look like 2 losses. Bye week at the Saints. The Saints are not a good football team right now. Maybe they could win that. Home against the Steelers, that's a divisional game. Could win that, but, the Steelers right now are playing good football. Could be a loss. At the Broncos, Broncos play good defense. Broncos beat them last year, although that was with Russ. At the Steelers again. Home against the Chiefs. At the Bengals. Home against the Dolphins with Tua, most likely. And then at the Ravens. Not a lot of wins there. You're looking at, I mean, they could be reverse of last year. They could be 6-11. 5-12. 4-13. There's not a lot of wins there. There's more losses. There's more losses there. So I don't know. We'll see what they end up doing at quarterback, but it's just not looking good for them. For the Bengals, though, Joe Burrow didn't throw for a ton of yards yesterday. They didn't run the football great. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase both had touchdowns. A couple of interceptions in the game. The defense, 4 sacks. Bengals are starting to play better, although they beat the Giants and the Browns, 2 of the worst offenses in the NFL. So, now they play the Eagles at home, which is a big game. They got the Raiders after that. I mean, they could definitely get back to 500. And we'll talk about the Eagles-Giants game tomorrow. And Saquon's return, of course, played really well. I mean, are we surprised by that? No. But we'll get into it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. So, Bengals could get back to 500, and then they go from there. But, for the Browns and their fans, it's looking like another rough season. And for the Bengals, they might be turning things around. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about the injury of Deshaun Watson. What do you think they should do? Should they bring in a quarterback? Should they start Jameis? Should they start DTR? Let me know in the comments. So, I mean, I think they should start Jameis, but that's besides the point. But anyways, before we go to break, just want to remind you guys once again to tip or donate and get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the super chat button in the chat to create any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast. I will acknowledge it, and it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day, so any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us as we put out content for you guys each and every day. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker. And once again, it's not being shown on the ticker every time I do this. The link is GSMCpodcast.net. That is GSMCpodcast.net. So when we come back from our next break, We will talk about the epic matchup game between the Lions and the Vikings. The Lions winning on a late field goal. We'll get into that. We'll talk about it when we return from our next break. So with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast, and for the third part of the show, we're going to now get into talking about the huge NFC North matchup that took place yesterday between the Lions and the Vikings. The Lions squeaking by and winning 31-29. It's an unbelievable game. Twists and turns came along with it, so let's get into that matchup. So obviously the Vikings were coming in one of the 2 undefeated teams that were remaining until they did end up losing. And the Lions only 1 loss on the year, and that was to the Buccaneers. And obviously there was no Aiden Hutchinson in this game, suffered that gruesome leg injury last week against the Cowboys. And, they did miss him in this game. But the Lions were still able to pick up the win. And early on in the game, and the Vikings, look, they have beaten some good teams this year. They have. They are a good team. This loss does not discount them. I mean, it's going to knock them down in the power rankings. Spoiler alert for Wednesday's power rankings. But this Vikings team is still very good. The Lions are a very good team. And my friend just said it in our sports chat. The Lions, the Vikings, and the Packers, they might be the top 3 teams in the NFC. And they all come from the same division. And on top of that, you got the Bears, who are on a bye this week. They also have a winning record. That division is unbelievable. And those teams, all of them, could be in the postseason this year. But anyways, the Vikings did what they've been doing to teams. They were up 10-0. And you thought, this is not looking good for the Lions right now. Because the Lions, they got the ball first. They turned it over on downs. And then Aaron Jones scores a 34-yard touchdown. And there was nobody in sight. The defense went one way, he went the other. And, he scored a very easy touchdown. It was from 34 yards out. Because the Lions, they went for it. They tried doing a fake punt. And it just ended up not panning out. But you know what? That's something that Dan Campbell will get criticized for. And this is what got him in trouble in the NFC Championship game. Maybe being a little too aggressive. But they're going to continue to do that. So, like I said, Lions turned it over on downs. Vikings turned that into 7 points. 7-0 Vikings. Lions then punt on their next drive. So 2 very quick drives. Vikings then turned that into a field goal, 57-yard field goal. So, like I said, 10-0 Vikings. And you thought, here we go. Looks like the Vikings might dominate. And that was not the case. The Lions did put together a touchdown drive, 5 plays, 69 yards. An awesome touchdown run by Jahmyr Gibbs, juking out a defender, 45 yards out, and that made it 10-7. And the Vikings have done a good job at stopping the run. But, going into this game with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, it was going to be tough to stop that rushing attack. And David Montgomery actually did get hurt in this game. Didn't have a rushing touchdown for the first time this year. But, the Lions' running game made plays when it had to. Vikings then punted, and then before you know it, the Lions on top. Jared Goff, who played very well once again, connected with Amon-Ra St. Brown for a 35-yard touchdown, so that made it 14-10. Then Sam Darnold on the next drive, he gets intercepted trying to hit Jordan Addison, gets picked off by Brian Branch. Lions then turn that into a touchdown drive. 25-yard pass play to Sam Laporta in that drive, and Jahmyr Gibbs once again scores a rushing touchdown from 8 yards out. And the Lions were up 21-10 at the half, and then I thought, all right, well, looks like this game has swung in the favor of the Lions. But Vikings came out in the second half, 9 plays, 80 yards down the field. Darnold connected with Justin Jefferson for a 25-yard touchdown, so that made it 21-17. Lions then responded with a touchdown of their own. Goff connected with Khalif Raymond for a 21-yard score, so that made it 28-17. Vikings then kicked a field goal, so it was 28-20. Punt by the Lions in the fourth quarter. Vikings kicked another field goal that was set up by a 51-yard pass play to Jordan Addison. So, yeah, it was 28-23. Then the Lions ended up fumbling. David Montgomery fumbles. It's picked up. Vikings score. This is by pace from 36 yards out. So that made it 29-28. They did not get the 2-point conversion. Both teams then punted. Lions, they put together a good drive at the end of the game. From the Vikings' 26-yard line, Jake Bates, he kicks the go-ahead field goal, and the Lions end up winning 31-29. Vikings get the ball back, but there's just not enough time left for them to do anything with it. And Lions get a huge, huge win within their own division. And the Vikings, they were undefeated all this time, and they lose to the Lions, and now they're in second place. Jared Goff, another great game for him. He got those early season struggles out of the way, and I think we all knew that was going to happen. He was going to play better, and that's what's been happening lately. 22 of 25, 280 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions in this game. Lions ran the ball for 144 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs, 15 carries for 116 yards and 2 touchdowns. David Montgomery, like I said, got banged up in the game. 9 carries for only 31 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown had a big game. 8 receptions on 8 targets for 112 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 4 for 44. David Montgomery, 3 for 39. Khalif Raymond, 3 for 39 and a touchdown. Tim Patrick, 2 for 25. Sam Laporta, it's kind of been quiet this year. I mean, last year he had that touchdown reception, but he only has 224 yards on the season and a touchdown. His first touchdown of the season was last week. So he's been kind of quiet. Jameson Williams had a quiet game. Goff had actually 2 fumbles in the game, but didn't lose either. David Montgomery did lose that fumble. Like I said, Brian Branch had an interception. And the Lions' defense did have 4 sacks. I'm curious to see if they try to add a pass rusher. But, yeah, they were able to pick up the win. For the Vikings, Sam Darnold, was good. 22-27, 259 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick to Brian Branch. Aaron Jones was good, 14 carries, 93 yards, and a touchdown. Darnold had 4 for 39. Justin Jefferson, a good game, 7 for 81 and a touchdown. Naylor, 4 for 76. Addison, 3 for 66. Hopefully they get Hawkinson back soon. Vikings defense did have 4 sacks on the day. And, yeah, Lions pick up a huge win. And like I said, they now overtake the Vikings for first place. But, yeah, I mean, just looking at the NFC North, you got 2 5-1 teams. The Packers are 5-2. They're a half game back. And then the Bears are 4-2. Division's unbelievable. And you look at the playoff picture, and right now, as it currently stands, you have all 4 NFC North teams in the playoffs. If the playoffs were to end today, the Eagles are a half game back. Falcons are 1 game back. Cowboys are 1.5 games back. Niners are 2 games back. I mean, it's unbelievable how good this division is. That's what we were expecting out of the AFC North, but that hasn't really been the case. Now, the Bengals are starting to put things together, so, maybe at least, 3 of the 4 teams. Because I did have the Bengals and the Ravens making the playoffs. I did not have the Steelers making the playoffs. But, yeah, that's how it currently stands. And this was a big win for them. I mean, again, there was no Aiden Hutchinson. And, that was one of the things that, myself and many others were going to be paying attention to, is how were the Lions going to do without, I got to fix my camera here. How are the Lions going to do without, their main guy on defense? And they still were able to win the game. It wasn't easy. Like I said, the Vikings are a very good team. They're 5-0 for a reason. But the Lions are a very good team. The Lions are a very good team, and they proved that here. And I may not be perfect on some of my predictions from this year. The Commanders are one that I thought the defense was going to be bad. Oh, that was weird. Oh, never mind. I was like, oh, my camera did that Spider-Verse thing, and then it just was good after that. But anyways, the Commanders don't look good. The Jets' prediction doesn't look great. But I mean, I gotta tell you, my Super Bowl prediction right now looks good. Lions are playing really good, and the Chiefs are still undefeated. So as long as that ends up being right, anything else that happens, it is what it is, in my opinion. So, but yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see more of these matchups between these NFC North teams. I mean, so far, we've had 2 of them, and both of them have included the Vikings. Both games have been unbelievable. Packers-Vikings, I mean, it was a tale of 2 halves, but that still ended up being a good game, and this game was a classic. And Jake Bates, from the UFL, kicking big field goals. And I thought, first, when he kicked that, because he had a Vikings player jump over the pile, I thought it was going to get blocked. Then he kicks it, and I see it looks like it's going to go wide left, and then it ends up curving back in, and they end up getting it, and they win the game. So, and he had a good day as well. Lions are a really good team. And like I said, I'm curious to see what they do before the deadline. Maybe try to add a pass rusher. I know there were some rumors floating around about Max Crosby, but I don't think that's going to happen. If that happens, that would be unbelievable. But it doesn't seem like that's going to happen. There's got to be somebody they could add. Or maybe they just really believe in the guys that they have on the roster. And I mean, I love Dan Campbell as a head coach. I really do. And like I said, I hope he learns from his mistakes from last year during their playoff run. I want to see this team do it this year. Even though I said I had the Chiefs over them in the Super Bowl, love to see this team win the Super Bowl this year. Really would. It's hard to root against this team. It is. Because Dan Campbell, he really turned the culture around. Jared Goff, his story as well. I mean, the Rams, that trade ended up working out for both teams because the Lions are really good. Although you want to, Jared Goff wants to win a Super Bowl. And the Rams, they went all in and they won the Super Bowl with Stafford. So it ended up working out for both teams. I mean, and the Lions right now, they're one of the best teams in the NFL. They are. And I would like to see this team do it this year. And I think they can. I think they can. Even without Aiden Hutchinson, I think it really does hurt their chances. But, they showed yesterday they could still win. They could still win in that's a tough place to play. And they were able to do it. They beat a very good team on the road. So, but yeah, let me know what you guys think though about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. So, we're going to take our next break. When we come back, we'll talk about the Packers. We'll talk about their win over the Texans. So stick around once again, and we will be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.
For the best and latest podcasts available anywhere, go to the podcast app on your cell phone and type in GSMC to access free content-rich podcasts on health and wellness, book reviews, sports, entertainment, relationships, social media, movies, technology, finance, and even weird news. Subscribe and download the GSMC Podcast Network's family of shows, available everywhere podcasts are found.
All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the fourth part of the show, we are going to now get into talking about the Texans-Packers game from yesterday. You know, these games, because I said, between this game and the game we just talked about, those are going to be some of the best games of the weekend, and they were. They were as advertised. Packers were coming in at 4-2, Texans 5-1 on the season, and interesting game for both quarterbacks. Jordan Love, 3 touchdown passes in this game. Did throw a couple of interceptions. C.J. Stroud, he only went 10 of 21 for 86 yards. Texans ran the ball with Joe Mixon. Like I said, the turnovers helped them. But let's kind of go through it. So, yeah, first drive of the game, Jordan Love throws a pick. Trying to hit Dontavian Wicks, who had a touchdown in this game. The Texans, they turned that into a field goal. Fairbairn from 23 yards out. Both teams punted. And then the Packers put together a 13-play, 92-yard drive down the field. And Love connected with Tucker Kraft for a touchdown, a 14-yard touchdown. So, yeah, that made it 7-3. Texans then punted on their next drive. And Ballantyne ends up muffing the punt. Texans recover, and they end up cashing in, scoring a touchdown on that drive. Joe Mixon from 2 yards out scores. Then the Packers, on their drive, they end up putting together a touchdown drive. Jordan Love connects with Dontavian Wicks for a 30-yard touchdown, so that made it 14-10. Then it was 14-13. Fairbairn kicks a 52-yarder. And then Jordan Love throws another interception. Texans turn that into a touchdown. Joe Mixon had a 32-yard run, and then he scored from 4 yards out. They did go for 2. They did not get it. So it was 19-14 at the half. Texans then punted to open up the second half. Packers, they put together a 9-play, 71-yard drive. Josh Jacobs had a big run on this drive for 27 yards. And then later in the drive, he scored, and I didn't know this, but he scored his first ever receiving touchdown in the NFL. Love connected with him from 8 yards out. He scores from 8 yards out. So that made it 21-19 Packers. More punts. We go to the fourth quarter. A lot of punts. Texans finally score. 13 plays, 45 yards. Almost 6.5 minutes of time of possession. And big play. You know, Stroud did not put together a great performance, but he did hit Xavier Hutchinson for an 11-yard gain on 3rd and 10 from the Packers 23, and you thought, that might be it. They might just, that might be it, but they might have iced it. But that was not the case. The Packers were able to get the ball back. 35-yard field goal by Fairbairn, and the Packers put together an 8-play, 44-yard drive. They get into field goal range, and, kicking has been a problem for the Packers. They just have not been able to figure it out. They bring in Brandon McManus, and he kicks a 45-yard field goal to win the game, does his first Lambeau leap, and the Packers win. They improve to 5-2. The Texans drop to 5-2. Texans were down some guys on defense. Their leading receiver in the game was Dalton Schultz. 1 reception for 28 yards. And, they did rely on the running game, and Joe Mixon has done a great job running the football. But you'd like to see more out of C.J. Stroud. And he wasn't getting good protection from his offensive line. Packers defense played really well yesterday. At least, rushing the passer. Stopping the run was a problem. But the Packers, they finished with 4 sacks on the day. You had 2 from Eric Wilson, the linebacker. 1 from Xavier McKinney. He was just unblocked. They did not pick him up. He sacked Stroud. And then Rashawn Gary also had a sack in this game as well. Quay Walker, he got hurt in this game. And he's a key guy when it comes to stopping the run. Romeo Doubs had a good game for the Packers, 8 receptions for 94 yards. Dontavian Wicks, 3 for 48 and a touchdown. Tucker Kraft, 3 for 33 and a touchdown. Josh Jacobs, 5 for 16 and a touchdown in this game. Jaden Reed, only 2 for 10. Christian Watson, 1 for 9. Jordan Love, 24 of 33, 220 yards. Like I said, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. The interceptions continue to be a bit of an issue, but, he continues to throw touchdown passes. So, it was a good game. But like I said, you'd like to see Stroud throw for more yards in this. And this is what I was talking about, though. Wanted to see the Texans go on the road and, beat a tough opponent. Now, they had their chance. This was a very close game. But they were not able to do it. And, you look at their schedule coming up. You got the Colts. You got the Jets. You got the Lions, the Cowboys, the Titans, the Jaguars. And then later in the year, you got the Dolphins with Tua, at the Chiefs, home against the Ravens on Christmas, and then at the Titans. So there's some tough games later in the year. You got the Lions in there almost in the middle of November. So, look, the Texans are still a very good team, and they are, they're going to win this division. However, the Colts, they're 4-3 right now. So they've kind of, righted the ship a little bit. They won with Flacco last week. They beat the Dolphins, although, those wins weren't overly impressive in my opinion. The Dolphins, you had Tyler Huntley starting, and then he got hurt, and Tim Boyle had to come into the game. So, Colts, they got some tough games coming up. You got the Texans next week. Then they're at the Vikings, home against the Bills, at the Jets, home against the Lions. So, that's a tough stretch for the Colts. I still think the Texans, it's their division. So, for the Packers, they play in the toughest division in football. They already lost to the Vikings, but they take on the Jaguars next week, which I think they should win that, so that should get them to 6-2. But then, you got the Lions at home, bye week, at the Bears, and then home against the Niners. So, they got some tough games coming up as well. But, it was a good game. It was as advertised, like I said. 2 young quarterbacks. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw those 2 teams square off in the Super Bowl. That would be a great game. But, like I said, it's games like that do make me pause when it comes to C.J. Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. I think he's a top 5 quarterback. I'd have to really go through it though. But if he's not top 5, he's just outside the top 5. He's a very good quarterback. But it's games like this where you're just like, you want to see more out of him. Like, again, made some good throws. Like I said, the throw to Hutchinson at the end of the game where you thought, the Texans are probably going to win. That was impressive. But, only 86 yards passing? That's unacceptable. Also, Jair Alexander and Stephon Diggs got into it before the game. No love lost there between those 2 guys. Obviously, Diggs used to play with the Vikings, so, those 2 know each other well. Diggs really didn't do anything yesterday. I thought he would have had a big game because of that. The Texans, they do miss Nico Collins. Also, Tank Dell did nothing in the game yesterday either. The Texans do miss Nico Collins. They got to get him back. But, you know what? At least you have Joe Mixon, who continues to run the football well for this team. He's playing some good football. They leaned upon him yesterday, and he was able to have a good game. But you gotta see more out of your quarterback. And obviously, he's gonna have good games, but it's also gonna have some bad games as well. And that's what happened yesterday. Again, only 86 yards passing, really. But it happens. It happens. But the Texans are 5-2. They're still a very good team. And, they were missing some guys on defense, like I said. So let's see what happens next week. But, let me know what you guys think, though, about this game. What were your takeaways from it? Let me know in the comments. For the Packers, another win. Another win for them. And, let's see what they do next week when they take on the Jaguars. So, when we get back from our final break, we're going to talk about the Monday night games. We got 2 of them tonight, of course. The ESPN Plus exclusive, the Chargers and the Cardinals. And then, of course, you have the Buccaneers and the Ravens. So, 2 games left, and then we are on to Week 8. But I also want to bring up that a little bit shorter of a week for me. So, I will be doing shows today, tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. No show Friday. I will be flying out to Ohio. I will be at Ohio State, Nebraska on Saturday. And then I will be in Cleveland on Sunday to watch the Browns take on the Ravens. And we'll see who ends up starting at quarterback for them. And then there will be no show. There's going to be no show Monday either. So I'll be back on Tuesday. So only a little bit shorter of a week this week. Monday through Thursday there'll be shows, and then no show Friday, no show Monday, and then I will be back on Tuesday. So I just wanted to bring that up. So again, hopefully you guys don't miss me too much. Not an extended period of time, just 2 shows, 2 days. I won't be around, but that's all right. That's all right. But I'm gonna make sure that I take some videos. I'll definitely gonna try to take a lot of pictures as well. Looking forward to it. Should be a good time. It's going to be different. It's going to be different to see, different stadiums, because I'm just accustomed to seeing, all the stadiums here on the East Coast, being at a bunch of Yankee games. Yankees-Dodgers World Series. That starts on Friday, which I cannot believe it. It was a crazy series the Yankees had with the Guardians. But they came out on top, and a lot of people get the World Series that they've been wanting for years, Dodgers-Yankees. So, and then of course, the NHL is underway. You also have the NBA is going to be starting as well. So, we're going to have that sports equinox. So that's going to be great. Sorry, I went off on a little bit of a tangent there. So we're going to take our final break of the show now. When we come back, we will talk about both Monday night games tonight. I'll give you my picks, and that is how we will end off the show for today. So for one final time today, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the final part of the show, we're going to preview both Monday night games for tonight, and that will be how we end off the show here today. So let's get into the first game we'll preview. We'll preview the Ravens-Buccaneers game, and then we'll go to the Chargers-Cardinals after that. So, these teams met a couple years ago. That was Tom Brady's last year. That was back in Tampa. That was on a Thursday night. Ravens got the win there. Now, obviously, it's a little bit different. You got Baker Mayfield playing quarterback, and he's been playing well this year. And the Ravens have really hit their stride. They really have. Derrick Henry is awesome. That probably is the best signing of the offseason, is bringing in Derrick Henry. He's been unbelievable this year. 704 yards rushing, 8 touchdowns. Lamar Jackson, 10 touchdowns to 2 interceptions. And then on the other side, Baker Mayfield, 15 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. Looking at the league rankings, the Ravens 6th in passing yards per game. The Buccaneers are 9th. Rushing yards per game, the Ravens, of course, are 1st, averaging 205.3 rushing yards per game. The Bucs are 8th. They're starting to get it going on the ground. Last week against the Saints, Bucky Irving, he's been running the football well. Sean Tucker, he was making plays for them against the Saints. Rashad White was banged up. He's back. And Todd Bowles was talking about, the running back situation, and he was saying how it's going to be more of a committee. So you're going to see all 3 guys out there. Now that, hurts their value in fantasy, but, that's good when you got, that many running backs in your backfield that, you can mix and match. And, I sound like I'm talking baseball when I'm talking about mixing and matching. But, that's good for the Buccaneers, though. Give the Ravens different looks. We'll see how that works out tonight. And then points per game. The Buccaneers are 3rd, 29.7 points per game. And the Ravens are 4th, 29.5 points per game. The Buccaneers, they put up 50 points on the Saints last week. So that, factored in. But, 33 points against the Eagles, 30 against the Falcons, 37 against the Commanders. They do put up points. And, I do expect this game to be competitive. I do feel like, though, the Ravens are the better team in this matchup here. And then on the defensive side of the ball, against the pass, both teams are at the bottom. The Ravens are 32nd, giving up an average of 298.2 passing yards per game, and the Buccaneers are 29th, giving up an average of 272.3. And then against the run, Buccaneers are 13th. The Ravens are the number 1 team at stopping the run. They're holding teams to 59 rushing yards per game. So we'll see, this Buccaneers running game, like I just talked about, match up against the number 1 rushing defense. Points allowed. The Buccaneers defense is 20th. Ravens are 24th. So, and the Bucs, like I said, Baker Mayfield's playing well. Mike Evans, was kind of iffy going into this game, but it looks like he's going to play. He was on the Rich Eisen show, and he was saying that, he's going to play. Chris Godwin, he has been unbelievable this year. He's been playing really well. And, again, he's another guy that I hope doesn't really do anything tonight because I'm going against him in fantasy. But he's been playing well. And, Baker Mayfield's been playing well. And the Bucs, getting guys back on defense, you hope. But we'll see. It's going to be tough to stop the Ravens offense, though, tonight. The Bucs are going to have to match what the Ravens do. I expect Derrick Henry to have a big game. And the Bucs are a 3.5-point underdog. I think the Ravens do win, and I think they do cover the number. I just think they are the better team. And, for the Bucs, what's interesting is this NFC South, because the Panthers, they got blown out yesterday by the Commanders, and Jane Daniels got hurt in that game. Marcus Mariota finished up the game, and he played well. The Panthers, they're out. The Saints, they look like they're out. With all the injuries, in that Thursday night game against the Broncos, that was tough to watch. And then you got the Falcons, who you thought turned the corner, and now they did not play great against Seattle. Kirk Cousins did not play well either. So the Bucs, look at them and you say they could be the favorites. for this division right now. I mean, it's still between them and the Falcons. It's by no means that they're a lock, but if the Bucs can win tonight, that would be huge. That would be huge going forward. And like I said, they got the Chiefs on the schedule. They got the Niners. They got some tough games coming up. They got the Ravens this week. They got the Falcons next week at home. Then at Arrowhead on a Monday night, and then home against the Niners. Those are some tough games. So, if they could go 2-2, that would be huge for them. That would be huge. And then out of the bye week, you got 3 easy games. You got the Giants, which, I think Giants have a good defense, but they can't score. Panthers they should beat. Raiders they should beat. At the Chargers is going to be tough. They play the Cowboys, which, I think they should win that game, but who knows. Panthers at home, and then the Saints at home. So I like the Bucs right now. They're they got a really good shot to win this division. But the Falcons they have some tough games on their schedule. They got the Vikings in there. I'm looking at right now. The Chargers. You got the Bucs next week. So we'll see. It's going to be a close race, but that's who it's going to come down to, is those two teams. So, but yeah, tonight, like I said, I like the Ravens. You guys know me, like Baker Mayfield a lot, but I think the Bucs fall short here tonight. I like the Ravens to win. I'm going to say 27-20 is the final score. Like I said, I think the Bucs will put up points. I think, this will be close, but Ravens, I think, are the better football team, and I like them to win this game here. So I got the Ravens. Then we move on to the second Monday night game, and that is between the Chargers and the Cardinals. Cardinals losing last week to the Packers. The Chargers, they picked up a win against the Broncos. They're 3-2 on the season. These two teams met, I think, in 2022, I believe. And the Chargers won that game. Looking at the league rankings, Cardinals are 26th in passing yards per game. Chargers are 31st. Chargers are a team that loves to run the football. Rushing yards, Cardinals are 7th, 145.2 rushing yards per game. Actually, the Chargers are 12th. I thought they would have been higher. But yeah, they're averaging 127.8 rushing yards per game. And then points per game, the Cardinals are 18th and the Chargers are 25th. Then on the defensive side of the ball, the Chargers defense is the better defense in this matchup. They are giving up an average of 209.4 passing yards per game, which is 11th. And the Cardinals, they are giving up an average of 230.3 passing yards per game. The Chargers are 6th, giving up an average of 97.2 rushing yards per game. And then the Cardinals are 30th. Got to fix my camera again. They're giving up an average of 153 rushing yards per game. So that doesn't bode well for my fantasy team with James Conner. And I'm going up against my friend who has J.K. Dobbins, and I'm hoping Dobbins doesn't do much, but we'll see. Maybe if Conner could, maybe he doesn't, have a ton of yards in this game, but maybe the Cardinals, they put up points in this game, and he scores a couple of rushing touchdowns. That would be nice. And then points allowed, Chargers defense is first. They're giving up an average of 13.2 points per game, and the Cardinals are 29th. They're giving up an average of 27.2. So, you look at the statistics. The Chargers are the better team here. Offensively, they haven't been overly impressive. They don't put up a ton of points. Justin Herbert this year, he hasn't been spectacular. On the season, he is looking at his touchdown interception ratio. It's good. It's 6-1, but he only 6 touchdown passes. He's at 815 passing yards. Kyler Murray, 8 touchdowns and 2 picks, which is good. 1,186 passing yards. J.K. Dobbins has been good this year, 438 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. James Conner, 403 and 3 touchdowns. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be playing in this game, it looks like. He's their leading receiver this year for the Cardinals, 279 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. Joey Bosa did not practice, doubtful for this matchup, so that's big for the Cardinals. with him being out. And then on the Cardinals side, some guys are limited. But like I said, Marvin Harrison Jr., of course, he left the game against the Packers with a concussion. He looks like he's going to play. So we'll see. I mean, right now, the Chargers are 1-point favorites. I do like the Chargers to win this game. I mean, I think it's I would say like a 20-17 game, 23-20 game. I think it'll be close. But yeah, Kyler Murray has not played well. He didn't play well last week. I mean, they did beat the 49ers on the road. So I can't say he hasn't played well this year. I told you. I mean, 8 touchdowns and 2 picks. That's good. But again, he's one of those guys you want to see more out of him. And the Cardinals, I mean, I think that they're kind of going to finish around what I had them at record-wise. I mean, right now they're 2-4. They got the Dolphins then next week. Then they play against the Bears. They do have some tough games coming up on the schedule. They still got to play the Rams and the Niners again, even though they destroyed the Rams when they played them. But it's going to be different when they play the Rams the second time because they're going to probably have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua back by then. So, for the Chargers, look, they play really good defense and they run the football. Harbaugh is already changing the culture over there. And, once you get, some more playmakers on this offense, and you continue to rebuild this team, the Chargers are going to be a good team for a long time with Harbaugh, I would imagine. So I expect them to win tonight, get to 4-2. Cardinals probably going to drop to 2-5. But we'll see. You never know. But that game is on ESPN+. So like I said, if you have a friend, a family member, or some random person you see on the street, ask them if they have an ESPN Plus account. If you don't have it, if you really want to watch this game, I mean, if you don't, look, we got Buccaneers, Ravens on as well. So, but that's the only way you're going to be able to watch this game is if you have ESPN Plus. So, but yeah, I got the Chargers winning. I got the Ravens winning as well. So let me know what you guys think. Who do you have winning these games? Let me know in the comments. And that is pretty much it for the show for today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to check out all the other shows. Give the other shows some love like I always say. Make sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and like the video. Greatly appreciate it. So yeah, until next time, I'm Kenneth Grunfelder signing off from the GSMC Football Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. Have a good day, and I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Take care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet, damn, ain't that great.